and the Liberal Party of Canada wanted to complete the coronation of Mark Carney. All of the allegations that you have mentioned, they are completely false.
I hope that you'll keep in touch with us if you make a next move, whether that's appealing to the court to get back in or running as an independent or doing something else. I'm excited by what you're saying, and it's a reminder of what a democracy is supposed to sound like. So thanks very much for spending some time with us.
I appreciate it. And I think that I join thousands of Canadians of ensuring that we continue to have free speech in our country, that we continue, to have a democracy. I have never been a part of the World Economic Forum, and I believe that it is very important that we have the leadership in our country who actually reflects, the needs of the hour of our country, of Canadian families.
Shocking news yesterday on a Friday afternoon when the media was all heading home for the weekend. The Liberal Party announced that they were summarily banning, dumping, revoking one of their leadership candidates to succeed Justin Trudeau, Dr. Ruby Dhalla. In fact, she found out not from the Liberal Party itself, but from a leak to the CBC. Dr. Dhalla joins us now via Skype. Dr. Dhalla, what happened? What went on?
Your guess is as good as mine, but it was quite interesting to be running for the leadership for the Liberal Party of Canada, to be running to become Canada's next Prime Minister, and then to find out while I was live on air with CBC that the Liberal Party was going to be disqualifying me from the race.
Huh. Now, you made a splash in social media. You were very aggressive with videos and tweets and memes, and it really caught a lot of people's attention. I have no idea how your membership sales went, but I think you had a lot of buzz. Was that one of the reasons you were let go? A theory I saw was that you were perhaps being too critical of Mark Carney, and he seems to be the anointed one, at least with party high-ups. Is there any credence to that theory that you were being too aggressive and not calm in your debating style?
Well, I certainly didn't come into the race to be a pretty face. I came into this race to talk about progressive policies. I came into this race to bring the Liberal Party of Canada back into the center. I have grown up with a party since the time of Chrétien and Paul Martin, and I came back into this race to ensure that I actually wanted memberships in the grassroots of our country to start having a voice in the party. But when it comes to running for Prime Minister, I came into this race to ensure that our party starts talking about progressive policy ideas that are actually the need of the hour in our country, whether it was on the economy or housing or the increase in crime rates. I wanted to ensure that we had policies that spoke to Canadians, that spoke to the challenges they are facing. And as you said, I was the only candidate that was not a part of the current administration. And that is why I presented my progressive policy ideas throughout this campaign. And yes, I was aggressive in campaigning because I wanted to ensure that the voters would actually have a very clear choice about the type of leadership that they wanted for our party and our country.
It feels a little bit undemocratic to have an internal secret hearing dismiss you rather than let Liberal Party members make that choice. But they did that a few weeks ago for Chandra Arya, another candidate. They just said, sorry, you're good enough to be a member of parliament, but not good enough to run. It seemed like an inside deal. It reminded me a little bit of when Bernie Sanders was forbidden from challenging the favorite candidate in the U.S. Who were the people who made this decision? Was it an open and fair process? Are you considering appealing it? I know that parties have a lot of latitude, but if they had a procedure that wasn't fair, have you considered perhaps appealing to a court to try and get back in the contest?
Well, first of all, you talked about open and fair. I would share two stories, with you. Number one, that firstly, they started to have media leaks about 24 hours before. First of all, they had made these false and fabricated allegations in regards to foreign interference. Then I put out a video on my social media stating that just because I was of Indian ethnicity, I would not allow the Liberal Party of Canada to smear any people of color, to smear any immigrants in our country or those from multicultural communities with the airbrush of foreign interference when they wanted to run for the top job. I would simply not allow it. And interestingly enough, the Liberal Party then, according to the spokesperson, issued a clarification to the media that the violations did not have anything to do with foreign meddling. And then the next day, it turned out to be financial violations. So just before I was going on to present to this committee, which has operated in secrecy since the start of the leadership campaign, because other candidates and campaigns have been asking us to who the members are that have been making up the rules by which we were governed, we were told that it was a secret and no one was allowed to have that.
A secret trial like a Star Chamber? Are you serious?
I haven't even started to tell you all of the stories that we had to go through, but we were under a confidentiality agreement while I was in that process. So to respect that agreement, to respect the integrity of the race, I didn't speak out because I was focused on putting forward my vision of growing our campaign team, and that's why we were building momentum. But just a few minutes, actually not even a few minutes, a minute before I was about to start, the final process in terms of having the opportunity, as they said, to present before this committee, I received an interesting text message, and I think I should actually read that to you if I can find it here on my phone quickly. But just about a minute before I was about to go on to do my final presentation to this secret committee of the members from the Vote Leadership and the Expense Committee, I received a text message. It says, and I quote, "They are going to disqualify you for campaign irregularities and not foreign influence."
So they were shifting around. It's like they were changing their stance based on their trial balloons that they were leaking to the media. That's how it sounds to me.
Well, they were saying on the surface, that we are going to give you another chance. But in the interim of this, on the sidelines, they were leaking, to the media. And that's why I actually had, this text message. So I finished my presentation to the committee, of telling them that these allegations were completely fabricated. They were false. And we had provided proof for any questions, that they had. Yeah. And then right at the end of my presentation, I said, by the way, I am a fighter. I have fought uphill my entire life. I have, overcome many challenges, personal struggles, made a lot of sacrifices. And because I am a fighter, I did this, appeal and reached out, and I'm here sharing, the fact that we have provided you with the supporting documentation. But I want you to know, a minute before I was about to come on to this committee, I received this message. So the reality is, this was all a preset and predetermined agenda by the Liberal Party. And interestingly, do you know when we were first approached about these potential violations or these questions that they had? Hours after the final deposit of $350,000 was given. So it was clearly an attempt for the Liberal Party to fill their coffers, to fill their pockets with hardworking donors of the Ruby Dhalla campaign.
$350,000 is an enormous amount of money. You were able to raise that. I think that would have been a barrier to entry for a lot of other people. Do you get any of that back? Because it seems pretty, pretty on the nose for them to take the money and then very shortly after kick you out but keep the cash. What's the status of that?
Well, I think that, they should do the honorable and the credible thing, especially in the light of the fact that they have been on a leaking spree about my campaign with having these false allegations with nothing being able to stick to them. I think they should do the honorable and credible thing, not for Ruby Dhalla, but for all of those hard-working individuals and taxpayers that have actually paid $350,000 and actually refund the money. I just find it so interesting and ironic at the fact that they only came up with questions minutes after the $350,000, was submitted as a deposit fee.
Well, let me say this. Rebel News is regarded as a conservative network, and I would accept that. And you're a former Liberal MP, and of course, you're running for the Liberal leadership. But I think a lot of people who aren't necessarily traditional Liberals, people who are in the middle, and even people who are on the right, were pretty excited by your style and what you were saying and what you were doing. I mean, I'll be candid. I'm most likely going to vote for the Conservatives. I'm not trying to pretend I'm a Liberal, but I got to say a lot of people who are sort of like me, said, wow, that Ruby Dhalla is really kicking it up. She's raising new issues. I think you made a lot of friends even outside traditional liberal circles. And I don't know if you know this, but yesterday we put up a website called draftruby.com. I don't know if you saw that, but thousands of people have signed that petition, and I'll deliver it to you. We're going to let it grow a little bit, but I think there's an appetite for your style of shoot from the hip, call it like you see it. I think people like you. Some people remember you from your career as an MP, but I think a lot of people are saying, who's this? And I think they sort of wish you could finish the process. So what do you say to those thousands of people who have signed up at draftruby.com? Would you consider running either as an independent, maybe even, I don't know if you regard yourself as a fit for the Conservative Party? Would you consider appealing to get back in? Like, I think people want to see more of Ruby Dhalla and her fighting spirit. What do you say to them?
Well, I am a fighter, so they can definitely count on that. And I think, as you said, Ezra, that during the campaign, I spoke about issues that are the need of the hour. And I think I was able to connect with so many Canadians across the country is because of the fact that I have not lived in the Ottawa bubble for the last 10 years as the other candidates did. I was the only candidate out of all five, of us that were in this leadership race that was not an advisor to the current administration, that was not a minister in Trudeau's cabinet, and neither was I member of parliament during those 10 years. I have had my ear to the ground in the last 10 years. And when I spoke about progressive policy ideas, whether it was related to our economy, or whether it was related to business people in our country and Canadians who are just overburdened by all of the taxation that we are paying. And I spoke about having a review of our tax system, about ensuring that we create a value for tax system, or putting in a housing Cesar to ensure that we actually start building, more affordable housing in our country, or toughening up on bail reform and toughening up on crime. I think it was a need of the hour. And these are, issues that are important. And I think it's about time that, politicians in our country start speaking to the needs of what Canadians want to actually deliver results. If the Liberal Party had been doing that over the last 10 years, our party going into this leadership race would not have been, so low in the polls. Yeah. I was in this campaign for ensuring that we have a discussion, we have a debate about the future. But it's very clear the Liberal Party establishment felt threatened. They did not want me on that debate stage because I was the only one that was going to be aggressive, that was the only one that was going to actually question, Mark Carney on his abilities to be able to deliver for Canadians. And I was going to be the only individual who was going to talk about issues that are impacting Canadians and Canadian families. It's quite interesting when we talk about the debate. As we were getting prepared, as you know, I requested for a translator. I'm fluent in 4 languages. I'm in the process of learning, my 5th language to become fully bilingual in French, because I believe the French language, Canadians are so essential to our fabric. It's quite interesting, though, that Carney's campaign team is the only one that objected to me having a translator on a candidate's call that was held. So it's quite interesting to see that, right from the get-go, Carney's team didn't want me on that debate stage. And the Liberal Party of Canada clearly wanted to have, the coronation for Mark Carney completed, because our campaign was building momentum. You talk about the social media. Just last night alone, in the space of 1 hour, we had over 1.6 million people engage with what we had written. Just in the last 30 days on Instagram alone, I've had 4.7 million Canadians, that have engaged. So we did have growing momentum. And I agree with you that the Liberal Party of Canada should have allowed the voices of the membership, to be able to speak. But the establishment wanted a very, very closed race where his coronation would happen. Even when we talk about the race itself, Data Sciences, who we all know are affiliated with, Mr. Trudeau, and that whole entire team is working on the team of Mark Carney. And they are the ones that are controlling the voting process, the engagement with registered Liberals. I said all along, run a fair race. The cards will fall where they fall. The voters will speak. But to be threatened, and to feel threatened by a woman who grew up in Winnipeg and has been always a Canadian at heart, who's speaking about progressive ideas, it's really unfortunate that the establishment didn't feel the need to allow the voices of so many people who wanted to.
Yeah, it's the timing of it. You're so right. They waited till you put your deposit in, but they kicked you out before the debate, which is, I think, what they were worried about. Just a few weeks ago, Justin Trudeau criticized the United States for not voting for a woman as president. He specifically said they missed an opportunity with Kamala Harris.
We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president.
And I feel like at least Kamala Harris had a shot, like she was in the general election. But they blocked you. They blocked Chandra Arya. They're blocking anyone who, for some reason, they don't approve of. It feels very undemocratic to me. We're going to keep.
Andrew, just on that for 1 second, it's quite interesting. We've had this issue with Jody Wilson-Raybould. We've had a couple of other women,
right,
that were completely sideswiped by Trudeau, and then for this leadership race in particular, we had Mr. Arya, whose reasons, are unknown at this point. Does the party have something against strong, successful women who speak about progress in our country? Does the Liberal Party of Canada have something against, immigrants in our country who are trying to ensure that their voices are heard? Does the Liberal Party of Canada have something against women of color in our country who are trying to ensure that the policies that we speak about actually resonate and reflect the need of the hour? We call it the Liberal Party of Canada, but how liberal is this party actually? It just really, really makes, no sense. It's mind-boggling. And I can tell you from the responses that we have been receiving from across the country, liberals and even people that wanted to join the party, to expand our party, which is always the whole point of, any political leadership campaign, is to bring new people on board because they believe in your vision. I can tell you from the messages and the responses that we have been receiving and that are all over the Twitter space and Twitter feeds, people are sick and tired of, the Liberal Party of Canada talking about inclusivity, talking about having, the voices of immigrants heard in our country, talking about the importance of women. And then on the other hand, their actions do not reflect that and completely doing otherwise.
Wow. Well, I've enjoyed this interview very much. I've never spoken with you before, but you've got me a little bit revved up, your fighting spirit. I might even call you a rebel. I don't know if you would call yourself that, but you've got a great spirit. And I'm really sorry that the Liberals have tried to stop you from completing that process. I mean it when I say I hope you stay in the public square. I know you've been busy in the private sector. And the fact that thousands of people have gone to our website, draftruby.com, tells me I'm not alone. I hope that you'll keep in touch with us if you make a next move, whether that's appealing to the court to get back in or running as an independent or doing something else. I'm excited by what you're saying, and it's a reminder of what a democracy is supposed to sound like. So thanks very much for spending some time with us.
I appreciate it. And I think that I join thousands of Canadians of ensuring that we continue to have free speech in our country, that we continue, to have a democracy. I have never been a part of the World Economic Forum, and I believe that it is very important that we have the leadership in our country who actually reflects, the needs of the hour of our country, of Canadian families. And when I started this race, I promised to stand up for Canadians and to fight for Canada. And I intend to continue on that vision and on that mission of engaging Canadians throughout our country to ensure that we continue to have one of the best countries in the world. We need to ensure that our leadership continues to reflect that same vision.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. We've been talking with Dr. Ruby Dhalla, and hopefully it won't be the last time. Take care, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There you have it. For more, go to draftruby.com.
You should also take a look at one other thing. They were talking about these financial violations, with Elections Canada. And meanwhile, we haven't even filed a report. But Mark Carney, 21, donors with foreign addresses. So if
wow. I
want to
will
start
look into that. Thank you.
talking about violations. It's quite interesting that they'll do anything to protect their blue-eyed boy, but in the interim, will go out and attack, the first woman of color that was ever running, for the leadership of the Liberal Party. It's shocking.
Wow. Let's sign a petition. Go to draftruby.com. I think she should run for the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, I'm sure there are some things where she may have a disagreement on this policy or that policy, but that's not the point. Pierre Poilievre should put together a coalition large enough to include Ruby Dhalla. And Ruby is the kind of woman who can take it to the Liberal Party. We've seen that. And wouldn't that be an incredible statement of democracy? The Liberals threw out Ruby Dhalla, and the Conservatives brought her in. If you agree with my idea, go to the petition now. Go to draftruby.com, and we will present the petition to Ruby herself. She doesn't have to quit politics just because some foreigner like Mark Carney. You see what I did there? He's lived outside Canada for years. He has 2 other passports. Ruby Dhalla is more Canadian than Mark Carney is. Ruby Dhalla should be drafted to run for the Conservatives. To hell with Mark Carney. Go sign my petition at draftruby.com.